Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. Today we are doing a deep dive on King of My Heart, and this is a continuation of our show and tell episode last week where we went into royalty. Super fun episode. I'm getting tired of saying this because I think I say this about every episode, but like, what the heck? We did not want that conversation to end. So if you haven't listened to it, definitely go back and listen to that first. But we'll be deep diving King of My Heart today, and it may be somewhat related, but maybe not. Before we jump in, quick plug for our socials. If you're not already following us on Instagram or TikTok, we try to post some fun clips, post just fun ideas, are always looking to interact with our listeners. So please follow us and
DM us. We like to read the DMs in the comments.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Tell us what you want to hear. And then if you're not already subscribed to our Substack, we are getting really serious about this extra credit, guys.
I have a feeling that the extra credit from last week's probably is going to be about King Arthur and full medievalist Jen.
I'll write it in Middle English with a dash of Old English, and you can translate.
So it's real extra credit for all of us.
Yeah, like if you're not reading our extra credit, you're not geeky
You're
enough.
missing out. So. You're not AP enough.
Yeah,
oh my
try. Jen, why don't you drop the rhetorical triangle to get us started?
Yeah, so as always with the deep dive, we think about who is the speaker, who are they speaking to, and what is the purpose of the song. So at the end, we will circle back to be very corporate about it, and we will throw a time on your calendar for us to discuss what we all think the purpose is.
Wow.
And when that starts coming out organically, it's all over.
It just happens. Rain it in.
We can kick it off. We definitely started part of this conversation in last week's episode. It's really hard to discuss a song and not discuss royalty, so we will continue that. But thinking about, okay, who's the speaker and kind of like what's the situation. As always, not as always, but as commonly done, this is a first person song. And one of the biggest things we identify with the speaker is the American Queen. So I think that like clearly sets the stage, but like what's some of the other context that's getting us into this story? Because it is kind of a story.
It's very much a story. And I mentioned this in last week. I love the way she starts it out with where she's at in her life. I'm perfectly fine. I live on my own. I made up my mind. I'm better off being alone. And then you have a change. It pivots. So it tells you where you're at and then it pivots to the rest of the story. Is that a form of dramatic irony that like she's saying, I'm perfectly fine. I live on my own?
That's an interesting question.
I think because she's a queen, it changes the context a little bit. Like I feel like normally it could be a sense of irony, but because I think this song starts off with her saying that I'm perfectly fine, I live on my own, made up my mind, better off being alone. But then she says, like, I am a queen, which can be a lonely place to be, to be the head monarch of something. It feel like in that context, it doesn't feel as ironic, maybe. One thing that's interesting is like in talking about speaker is like we obviously have the first person. The second person, we usually don't know a lot about who she's talking about, but in this one she gives us some interesting hints. When she says obviously like the second person is who the king of my heart is going to be, who she's calling king of my heart, body and soul. She also says salute to me, which is really interesting to me because typically you bow to royalty, but not
very
everyone.
American.
Very American.
Well, it's not just American. There are some very specific people who salute to royalty in all cultures, and those are people in the military or soldiers.
Interesting.
I think soldiers don't bow; they only salute. And so, how does that change the meaning of like the king of her heart is like? We talked about princes or like potential candidates, but I thought that was interesting that it says salute.
Yeah, I like that too. But I originally read it as very American because it's salute to me, I'm your American queen, and you move to me like I'm a Motown beat. So the American Queen is being very rooted in this, like Motown is very uniquely American.
Very American.
But that's true too. You see the lines of soldiers like doing like the salute and stuff, even in modern to royalty.
I probably should have brought this up in the last episode, but I didn't think of it even though I wrote it down. So she specifically calling out that I'm your American queen. So we know that the U is not American, right? Because otherwise she would just be, I'm your queen. So what is the other person? Well, What?
I said perhaps a London boy.
Exactly, perhaps a London boy. And what tells us that, the way she says Jaguars, Range Rovers, and the Jaguars, very British. Also, the connection that the Range Rovers have to the British royal family. They are all driving in Range Rovers. I think we did a little Easter egg for this in the end of the last episode. But Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth both drove Range Rovers. In fact, Prince Philip's he once flipped his Range Rover when he was like 91 years old and probably shouldn't have been driving. And then his hearse was also a Range Rover. That's how much he loved his Range Rover. So based on all of this,
I think
yes, go ahead.
Jaguar is Range Rover. Like, they're the same company, too.
You know, I'm not a car person. I come from a
I was
car.
gonna say, if we want to talk about King Arthur again, I can add a lot of context. I'm out on the car conversation. I got nothing for
well,
you.
You can take my word for it. It's the same company.
Cool, great. Well,
we have like 2 different make models, whatever, but it's
yeah.
British Royal
Jaguars. The
vehicle.
Jaguars. Anyway, all of this is to say, very good evidence that the other person she's speaking to, is British, which is also likely why we get this king and royal reference and imagery, because when I think British, I think of the royal family. And so perhaps Taylor did as well.
It is interesting, though, because as always, yes, we know what was going on in her life then. However, this song does not only work for her in that specific situation of life, which is so interesting. The way she does that, of like she pulls in parts of, I mean, again, this we just know. This isn't even like a rumor. She was dating a British guy at this time. Great, we know this information. However,
our newer Swifties don't, and so there you go.
Okay, but I mean, like, it's not
dated several British guys. I would just like to say, so I don't actually think it's that obvious to what was happening when the song came out.
I guess my main point is, like, we are anti-Taylor Swift gossip. We are not here to figure out who the song is about. And all of those pieces of information we know enough about that she has publicly shared about her life to say, yeah, we can see how this was inspired by her life. However, it is not limited to just that, nor is this necessary. And again, she says this herself, like, songs she writes in a moment, but it changes meaning for her throughout her life. That we are not limited to, like, just that too, which I just think it's interesting. It's an interesting way to approach creating art. We cannot create art outside of ourselves. That's true. We're always limited by our experiences and beliefs and what our brains want to do. However, the life that the art has outside of us is really interesting, and it takes on new meanings. And like that, I think, is where art is really fun and cool. That we do this every week, but at the end of this, we will all probably have a slightly different take on this song. And that's cool. That's good art. So I just think that's interesting that it's all woven in together. But with back to King of My Heart,
I'm like, there's multiple
death
guys,
of the author rant.
Yeah, I don't think it's that clear of like who it's about, whatever. But I like my hints are British person that she's talking about, somebody who's not American, maybe like some sort of, like, you see somebody as a soldier kind of character. It doesn't have to be a literal soldier, but like that's just interesting because the implications around that is like someone who fights for you. You can extrapolate. You can like talk about somebody who's like very loyal. I don't know. I just think it has interesting implications.
I'm looking this up because it's a newer song, so I don't know it as well. But she definitely says in You're Losing Me, I think in the bridge of You're Losing Me, fighting in only your army, front lines, don't you ignore me.
Oh, and then you have the Great War. Like, you've got a lot of
military
but just the idea of like fighting in your army, I was like, there's literally a line about fighting in someone's army that just came out.
Queen's cavalry is like a real thing, or at least it was when we had a queen, but
now it's the King's cavalry. The other part of this song that always stands out to me is the references to wealth and the disparity between wealth and not having wealth. So you've got all the boys in their expensive cars, with their Range Rovers and the Jaguars, never took me quite where you do. And then you have change my priorities. The taste of your lips is my idea of luxury. And then up on the roof with a schoolgirl crush, beer out of plastic cups, say you fancy me, not fancy stuff, baby, all at once, this is enough. So you've got royalty in terms of King of My Heart and American Queen, but then you also have this idea that I don't need luxury. I'm an American queen and I'm making you my king, but I don't need actual wealth and luxury. I'm good with the taste of your lips and, drinking beer out of plastic cups and just being together. That wealth is not everything.
Which I totally love from the romance, but I think if we the interesting thing part about this song, going back to our Marxist episode compared to like mine, is in this song, the speaker seems to clearly still have the choice. The speaker has not lost power, has not lost wealth, has not lost access to those things. The speaker is simply choosing simplicity with this person.
It's my idea of luxury. It's I
Versus-
don't need this.
Versus mine, like it was clear they're living paycheck to paycheck. This is the life that they were given, not the life that they're necessarily choosing. And so it's from a romantic idea, very sweet. From like a class idea, just because you're rich and choosing simplicity does not mean you to even have that choice is not something most people have.
I would like to interrupt this program to do a very amateur reading of the music that goes along with this to kind of go with this point. At this point, we always try every now and then.
I bought a book to help us with this, which I'll reference after you.
Let me try to articulate. Like, we're talking about this like easygoing, like okay for settling with things that are not as fancy. And I feel like the way that the verses like stack up, she starts with this really easygoing beat of like,
it's lyrical. It's like very flowy and lyrical.
Like strolling along, like somebody just like waving their arms. And then it's like, and all at once. And it's heavy. And the music.
It's even before that. It's in Salute to Me, I'm Your American Queen. It gets very staccato. Salute to me.
It's interesting how there's like those three parts to this song. It's like easygoing, maybe like your American life, whatever, like a little bit of like energy coming in to being like
staccato, military almost, and then lyrical, powerful, all at once. Yeah. I don't know. Epic. So the book is Switched on Pop, which is based on the podcast Switched on Pop, which is a great podcast. And as we have said many times, what we lack in this podcast is any idea of music theory, and that podcast is all music theory. And so their book does a really good job of breaking out chapter by chapter different parts of music, and their second chapter is on Taylor Swift and what they call the T drop, which is how in songs like You Belong With Me, she does 2 beats and then a drop down. So you belong with me. Anyway, that's the last time I'll sing on this podcast, but
that's a lie.
You're right. That is a lie. Thank you for calling me out of my bullshit.
It's nicer than my strolling along example.
But it is interesting to see how, you're right, Monty, the music. I love that you brought up Salute to Me and that military reference, because that makes the music make more sense then, and that staccato single beat. And that repeat. So I had it's A, B, C. So C is the chorus and all at once. And then it repeats again. And then the bridge is
back. It goes back into that little strolling along, lighthearted.
Yeah. Late in the night. I want to license all this music. Anyway, I say that every week too. But the music does do a good job of showing the shift in I'm okay on my own, and oh my God, now you're in my life. And it goes
my life is hunky-dory was the word that came to mind, the really technical term. Hunky-dory, going great, swinging my arms,
and
walking
all at once.
And then like this boy marches across and you're like, all at once, you are the one.
Which I do think is really interesting how romantic and sweet this song is, but then so Perfectly Fine, Live on My Own, now you try on calling me baby, like trying on clothes feels like a very it just feels very not permanent. You don't wear the same clothes forever. So the idea of saying like I want to crown you the king of my heart, but also right now you're trying on calling me like baby, trying on clothes. That line has always felt interesting to me.
But we met a few weeks ago. Now you try on calling me baby, like trying on clothes. So I see that as this is new, and you're just gonna casually call me baby when this is still new. And I'm like, oh damn, you're calling me baby already?
Well, and baby is a really interesting title to call a queen. Like, she's a queen, and he's saluting. Like, we went from like salute to me.
Well, to, like, it's baby, then salute to me. So it's like you call me baby, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, salute to me. I'm a queen.
Yeah, I think it's like really interesting. I mean, she does mention like change my priorities, and like your idea of luxury is changing, but I think like I do think that the trying on clothes is less about the relationship, and I think it's it's more about like the familiarity. Like, how do you try to become familiar with someone where there's maybe a big difference in power dynamics? Maybe there's a really large difference in these two people, and you're trying to like
dance around it.
Yeah, like she has deemed him king of my heart very clearly because she has the authority and power to do that. But what power does this guy have to get familiar and casual with her?
Yeah, I think the song, it's a song I really love. So I did not originally love it. It was not a skip song, but it wasn't one that I was like, heck yeah, when it came on, until I watched the Reputation tour, like it was on Netflix at that time. And this song on that tour.
Why would they pull that from Netflix?
I know. But the like big drums and the choreography, this like that visualness of that song just like really won me over. But it's still a song I like almost wrestle with, because it does, to me, I think there's multiple interpretations, but you have this like, it's clearly new. They met a few weeks ago. Try on calling me baby, like trying on clothes, like yeah, whatever version it is, it's still new. You're trying something new. I do think We Rule the Kingdom and Sign My Room is very much innuendo.
Yes.
But then around someone a king is so
now.
intense. Like you have these two sides.
But I definitely think there's like a big power disparity here, because even in that line of rule our kingdom inside the room, by saying all the boys with their expensive cars, Range Rovers, Jaguars, never took me quite where you do. You're saying you're not one of those people, but those people didn't work for me. So maybe this will. And it was one of the other discussions that we have on a different episode. We talked about, we compared Mastermind and was it Gorgeous? But we're talking about like she's like messing around with all these people who are not at her.
I did something bad.
Maybe. Yeah.
The narcissists love me. The playboys love me.
Yeah. It's like
Satire. Is that our satire episode?
Yeah.
You're messing so many now we forget which episodes they are, which is really makes me happy.
It's like you mess around with all these people that are not on your level. They're not deserving. They're not there. And you kind of know that there's something lacking. And then maybe you meet your match in someone. And I think that the song is very much from her perspective of like, she recognizes she's met her match, but there's clearly a power dynamic difference. And so maybe it's not as clear to him, like what power he holds over her, or like maybe there's a difference there in his confidence versus hers, you know?
Power, but also wealth, or wealth as part of that power. And that's where wealth is power, exactly. And that's where like I kind of want to know the other person's perspective, because she's kind of putting him down at like,
yeah,
I don't need luxury. The taste of your lips is luxury, and I don't need the Range Rovers and the Jaguars. And it's like, are you calling me poor? It's kind of and like
crystal glasses when I have
like, and I get it that like wealth and money isn't going to bring you happiness. Cool, great, but she uses it so much in this song that I can't help but wonder if the king of her heart, is a little bit like, but did you have to like lean in that much? Was that necessary?
It does feel like a queen move though. Like what a power move.
For sure.
I think, and I'm just stuck on this, and maybe I'll just work it out as we keep discussing, but it very much to me feels like a very new relationship. I mean, literally says we met a few weeks ago, so they can't be that far into it. And then we still have late in the night, the city's asleep, your love is a secret, I'm hoping, dreaming, dying to keep. So like, this is still a secret, this is new, change my priorities, the taste of your lips is my idea of luxury. It seems like it's a very sensual song to me. Like, it's a very early relationship. You move to me like I'm a Motown beat. Like, okay, how are you guys moving together? Just tell me more. Or maybe don't. But like, it's this very new. But then to say like, this is new, we are doing this like very physical thing together that's going great. Love that. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm starting to get to where I think the purpose is, but it's just interesting to me that you have that compared to this, like, I am crowning you the king, not of just my body, but my heart and my soul. Like, that is a very intense statement to give when the rest of the song is like, I've known you for a few weeks and we're just like,
yeah, we're getting into the purpose for me.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do the bridge. Okay, Mountie, and then the bridge.
Maybe I was going to the bridge also.
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, I was in is this the end of all endings? My broken bones are mending. The line that stands out to me here is, say you fancy me, not fancy stuff, is a very vulnerable line, because I do think that like she's in too deep. She is in very deep. She has crowned him king of her heart.
Is this the end of all the endings?
That's what
Like,
I was going to say.
girl,
This is the
you
one.
have
That's what that's
fallen.
saying.
You have fallen. Also, she then calls him baby. Baby all at once. This is enough. So you start out with you trying on calling me baby, like trying on clothes. And at the end of the bridge, she's like, baby all at once. This is enough.
And in her mind,
it's been 3 weeks,
knows,
girl.
I mean, in her mind, she knows there's a big difference between their standing. And she's like, really hope you're into the real me and not my
fancy
queenness.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the power dynamics too, I also was noticing too that we can rule the kingdom inside my room. It's still her room.
Because going over to a dude's room is just not as nice. It's just never as nice. I understand why it's her room, because have you been to a single guy's apartment? It's awful.
But it's still that power dynamic of like, we can rule the kingdom inside my room. It's all my kingdom, but like this room, like sure, we can rule it together.
This is the only place where you have any power.
Sorry. So that power dynamic is like clearly there. And I mean, like, part of it too is like the speaker is the speaker, you know, like if this same song was from someone else's point of view, like, but like, you know, like there's the bias, the perspective of the speaker. Like, of course the speaker's writing about their room and like their life and what they're doing. So like there's some of that too, but it is still clearly there. But yeah, is this the end of all the endings? Is a to ask that to someone you met a few weeks ago is like, girl,
it sounds like something you say when you're drunk up on the roof with a schoolgirl crush drinking beer out of plastic cups. Like, that's what that says to me. I also like musically what she does in that line. Like, it's, and I'm sorry if someone could tell me what the definition of that is, that'd be great. It's still very staccato. I know that word, but it's an up and down with the music.
An oscillation. I don't know. I made that up, but it doesn't.
And then it gets smooth up on the roof with the schoolgirl crush, drinking beer out of plastic cups. So it's like she's questioning. The up and down is like this. You get this like anxiety almost in the music. Is this the end of all the endings? My broken bones are mending. It's either anxiety or it's building up this like tension, and then it gets released on the roof with a schoolgirl crush.
I kind of read it as like disbelief, maybe like a reality check. Like,
possibly.
Is this that thing that's it? Like it's almost shit. Asking, like when you ask someone a question or like in a confrontational kind of way, you're having a discussion. Almost, it's like, is this it? Like, are we doing this? Are we like, you know, like it's almost that kind of like, are you telling me this is a thing? It's like almost like outrageously disbelief, but like questioning.
She still calls it a schoolgirl crush, but she's also saying you're the king of my heart, body, and soul. I'm like, oh. Anyway, that gets to the purpose for me, but it's like, oh, too much, too soon.
Yeah, and it feels like this song has almost every layer. Like, there's so many different types of like love in the world, and this song feels like it touches on a lot of them. Like, they're hanging out all these nights, they're hanging out together. So like they're friends, they're hanging out. It's a schoolgirl crush, but it's also like you're moving to me like a Motown beat. Like, there's so many different types of love and affection of this that's being shown here all at once. And all at once, you are the one I've been waiting for.
Yeah, changing my priorities for you implies something much deeper than a schoolgirl crush.
There was one musical thing that we didn't talk about, and that's when like right before the bridge you have the weird like techno change where it just goes and all at once. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love us trying to figure out the musical.
Why did she turn into a robot?
I'm never going to learn music theory. I'm just going to continue to live in ignorance. So
it's because it pisses off your sister and you love that.
It does. Sorry, Amy, not sorry. I think it's funny.
I'm reminded of in Hamilton and Satisfied in that moment where like rewind, like hit pause. Like I think whenever you're like hit pause, play, rewind, whatever, it's like you're playing a record or a tape and you stop and like change where you're going. And right before she gets into the bridge and this questioning, there's a sense of like all at once, there's like repetition.
An echo, if you will. Like in Enchanted.
Becomes a little robotic, and to me it almost feels like a record. I just heard that. Okay.
Enchanted, unlocked. Anyway.
And it kind of like it feels like I've been waiting, let's reevaluate. Like I've been waiting for this. You're the king of my heart, but is this really the thing that I've been waiting for? It's almost like the bridge is almost like a brief moment of questioning, and then she like comes to the conclusion that like This is it.
This is it. I've been waiting.
Goes through the questioning, but there is that moment.
It's been a few weeks, but this is
there's
it.
a moment of vulnerability, which makes me think like she's going into this knowing that there is a chance that this person is into her for different reasons, that she is way more into this person than she is, and she's still okay with that.
It sounds like they need to have like a conversation before she crowns him king of her heart, body, and soul.
Well, I think the chorus was the conversation, and then we moved on.
I'm gonna say that they probably need to do a little more talking about their own priorities, and
I think that's the point.
Well, I think this is definitely we do this. All of her albums are cohesive. I think Reputation has some of the strongest like threads through the different songs, because I think this is a huge thread we see in Reputation of this like basically I'm in love. Oh crap. Should I say that? Should I do this?
Love.
Because we have Indelicate of like, we can't make any promises now, can we, babe? But you can make me a drink. Pause. Is it cool that I said all that? Is it chill that you're in my head? Like this immediate, like, is it okay? Like, is that cool?
A lot of throwing caution to the wind. Just being
yeah.
You can make me a drink.
Yeah. That'll you can then be like, wait, is this it? Is this it?
Pause.
I don't know. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. All at once. Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's do this.
Call it what you want.
To the point, Jen, I haven't thought about this until I'm speaking it, so forgive me if this goes absolutely nowhere. But I think that's what's interesting about Reputation is it's this mixed album that is about like anger and frustration and fear and anxiety, but also love. It is a love album, and love has both of those things.
I think it's a love album, but it's also an infatuation album.
Yes.
I think it's
yes. And this song is pure infatuation.
It's a very sexual album.
For Taylor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like for even like
dress. Only bought this dress so you can take it off.
There definitely could be other, like there's things that are way more explicitly sexual, but I feel like this album has a lot of those moments of, I don't know, it's almost like someone discovering that sex can be fun. Like a woman discovering that she can enjoy it. I just have to pause
for a second. And according to our Spotify demographics, we do have listeners under the age of 17. So just keep that in mind before you go any further. Otherwise, we have to label this one as explicit.
I'm like giggling because I just was imagining us doing a fashion episode and there's just like one song dress.
We would absolutely have all too well. We'd have the scarf. There would be
true. I mean, I won't get explicit, but I will just say, like, as woman, the journey, I think that's empowering. Like, it doesn't matter what your religion is. Like, I think every religion there's a place for sex at some point in your life in appropriate context, and I think that's true for everyone. Don't have sex in inappropriate contexts. Ask for consent, but also just like as a woman, it is not guaranteed to be super enjoyable, and this album feels to me like she's finding someone.
Doesn't support that, actually. It's supposed to be very enjoyable. I just want to say.
Mine says be fruitful and multiply.
Well, I'm not saying that religion doesn't say it's enjoyable, but I'm just saying, like, as a woman, it's not like a guarantee that every sexual encounter is going to be a wonderful experience for you. It's something you learn. You learn your body. You learn your partner.
You have a religion episode coming. We should pick.
I know.
Anyway.
But I just think we get that a lot in this album where love, there is some anxiety, but there's also this moment of like, it's like someone who gets her. So that connection is very intense. It's very intimate, both physically and emotionally. And it feels like it's like the first time for her, the speaker as an adult, that she's realizing this is like a two-way street. These experiences of intentionally wearing a dress so you can take it off, of moving together like a Motown beat, is much more romantic and enjoyable and sensual than a lot of other experiences can feel. And that's really empowering. And I think that goes into some of the empowerment here. So like, I'm not going to get explicit, but I think regardless of how old you are, you should look for someone who moves with you like a Motown beat, who makes you, enjoy a schoolgirl crush, that you're like, love them, that you have that connection, that it's not, you are not doing it because you feel like you have to. You are doing it because it is a very enjoyable experience on both ends.
While I appreciate that sentiment as general advice for the population, I do think that the way that this song and some of the songs on this album are written, it is kind of like she's throwing caution to the wind for that. Like it's almost like everything else has failed. I've tried to go down so many other directions and it hasn't worked. So in this situation, because this thing is working out really nicely, like I'm gonna throw all other reason to the wind and just go all in. Like this song is not about finding that balance, because she's just like ready to go all into this guy within a few weeks. So I don't think she's being like very thoughtful about balancing like that part of her life, like the private part and the like emotional part or whatever.
Right. No, but it more feels to me like because it just is. It's just she just talks about it a lot more on this album, that these experiences are really great. And it feels to me like these experiences with other people have not been this great up until now. And some of the throwing the caution to the wind is like, this chemistry is out of this world.
But it's almost
let's
like,
do it.
I say it's like not as much as like weighing it evenly. She's just like, this chemistry is so good that I'm willing to like, throw away everything else.
Willing to throw away everything, but keep it a secret. Your love is a secret. I'm hoping, dreaming, dying to keep. So that is the difference. It's okay, I will try this, but it will just be for me. This is delicate. It's going to be just us in this room, right? You're the king, rule the kingdom inside my room.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it here. It's going to just be for us.
But it's enough. That's enough. That's okay.
All at once. That is enough.
So,
what is the purpose?
Do we think we know what the purpose of the song is?
I think the purpose for me hasn't changed, because now I'm in the habit of writing down what I think the purpose is before we start this, in case I change my mind. And this just feels like what you say when you're really falling for someone early on and you realize for the first time that oh my God, I think I love this person and this could be it. Like, this is schoolgirl crush as an adult. And that moment as an adult where you're like, oh yeah, I'm falling for this person and ready to make them my person. And it's just that rush of emotions. And I think the music reflects that, and the lyrics. But then there's the whole other layers of like royalty and wealth, where I'm like, okay, she's also grappling at the same time. She's grappling with like why this is the one that she's ready to say this is enough for, because she thought she needed someone with Range Rovers and Jaguars. Yeah, she thought she needed someone different. And now she's like, okay, no, I think this is it. Oh shit, this is it. This is enough.
My interpretation actually did change a little bit. I think originally this song for me was about finding an equal, finding like a great lover, finding your match, like finding the king to the queen, the checkmate. After analyzing this a little bit, I actually think that it's like a very disbalanced kind of relationship, and it's not actually about finding an equal. It's about justifying a relationship that is very maybe not equal. And like there are some hints that there's some major difference between the dynamics that these two people have, or like the power that they even have in the relationship, or their backgrounds, maybe financial, like could be a lot of things, but there's definitely some mismatch, and she is all in and is like almost like justifying it.
Yeah, this is enough.
Yeah. This is enough. And it's kind of unclear whether the other person is like on the same
really want their perspective
or what their motive is. Yeah, it's actually like a very one-sided song. So far from being like really equal, we've met our match, this is it. It's actually quite disbalanced kind of a song, but one person's perspective.
I think it changed a lot for me. This is a song I've loved but really struggled with like what's happening here. And I think and now to me feels like someone who, kind of like we were just saying, like the chemistry was there. This person thought they were fine on their own, but we're like, hey, the chemistry is here. Let's like have some fun between two consenting adults and like whatever. But the way it goes, all at once, you are the one I've been waiting for. I think this song to me feels like it's like there was a moment, whether it was when they were together, maybe it was when they were on the rooftop, I don't know. But there's this moment where you're having fun, you're enjoying the chemistry, where you're like, oh crap, I think that I might be in this. Like, I think this is like,
I think I caught some feelings.
Yeah, and I think the like, and it's for the speaker, it's a huge pivot that they're going from, regardless of wealth or status. There's definitely a pivot of these were the types of boys I was with, but now I'm going to be with a king. I think that that's a key difference there too. Of like boy to king is like a huge maturity difference. Just like from the way you would understand it for the most part. I mean, boys were kings, like they were crowned when they were like 13. But
their mothers really ruled in their favor.
Yeah. But we would understand probably a little bit more maturity there. And I think that there's this like moment of like, it almost feels a little like, oh crap. Like we get that in Labyrinth too, of like the, oh no, I'm falling in love again. Like I kind of feel that moment of like, yeah, this is fun. I'm fine on my own. Then all at once, I'm like, I'm all in on this. You want everything of me. I will give everything to you. And it's like, whoa. Which I mean, like, it is interesting because I do not super distinctly. I don't remember the moment, but I remember that feeling with Chris when we were dating. I remember having a moment and being like, oh, I'd marry him if that's what he wants, and being like, okay, that's information I now have and have to live with, and like, do I tell him or do I wait? And like there's like that moment, and like when you're like having fun and then you're dating, and like those moments of like each step of getting more serious, of like you don't always know at the same time, and having to be like no pressure, super chill, I will marry you, but like only if you want to. So like no pressure. But like those are awkward conversations, and this feels like that kind of oh crap moment of like, oh, this is the person. Like this is I'm having a moment where I'm all in on this person, and it's been a few weeks, and okay, like I guess this is happening for me. Like that kind of moment. And yeah, there's power dynamics and stuff too, and I think the song almost like acknowledges all of that, but is like, but yet I'm all in. So we'll figure this out, I guess.
So what do you think? Because not even we'll figure this out, it's like, we don't ever get the other, and not even in her songs we normally don't get the other side, but we don't even get an inkling of the other side of
it's
reaction.
A very internal song,
another internal monologue, exactly, a very like introspective internal monologue. And this is like what I don't think you actually ever say this. I think this is like what you feel, and you just keep sipping your drink. You're like,
it's so optimistic though. I feel like and I mean, like, obviously it did work out for Chris tonight, but I feel like when I had that moment for Chris, it wasn't, is this the end of all the endings? My broken bones are mending. It was like, oh, he could really break my heart if he wants to. I'm realizing how deep I'm into this. And that's terrifying. That's a terrifying feeling. That's all
scary. I think we'll see that a lot more in Lover. I think we see a lot more of that anxiety and fear in the album Lover than we do in Reputation. Reputation to me,
I throw caution to the wind.
Like,
I don't think about the bad. It's all good.
It's fine. We'll drink more beer.
This album also came out at a time where she was already at an all-time low, and you kind of feel that in Gorgeous. It's like, you got nothing to lose. Like, you're already at rock. It's like, well, let's try this.
Exactly. I love Reputation.
I know. Reputation's so good. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Join us next week as we have a new topic and we show and tell some new songs.